Westley and Maclean's conceptual model of communication is regarded as a complete communication model. The model reflects all the steps involved in a typical mass communication process. A conceptual model for communications research was published by Westley and Maclean in the Journalism Quarterly in March 1957. Westley and Maclean's conceptual model of communication is one of the most influential models in the field of media and communication. For the first time, it attempted to represent the true complex situations of mass communication. The Westley and Maclean model is actually a modification of Newcomb's ABX model of interpersonal communication. Westley and Maclean suggested in mass communication the possibilities for feedback are either minimized or delayed. According to the Newcomb's model, two communicators A and B have access to an external object X. They take part in the communication process to arrive at a shared understanding of X. In other words, discrepancies between A and B in their orientation towards X will stimulate the communication process. The effect of this communication will tend to restore balance between A and B. Westley and Maclean's modification of the Newcomb's model takes place in two parts. A has access to the objects x1, x2, x3 and x4. It perceives them as x1a, x2a, x3a, etc. At the same time, B has its own perception of x1 as x1b. A communicates as x dash to B and B in turn provides the feedback FBA. A selects from a number of x's, which are objects available to him, to communicate with B, and he communicates as x dash. B may have some direct perception of an x as x1b, and there is a feedback from B to A, FBA. We'll now discuss the Westley-Maclean model. In the ABX model, Westley and Maclean introduce C, which could be a channel or a gatekeeper. A is a source or a news advocate who has to communicate to B through the channel C. Based on his understanding of x1, x2, x3s and x4s, A sends a message x dash to C, the channel gatekeepers, for transmission to B. The channel has its own independent understanding of x as x4c. It modifies the x dash received from A as x double dash and sends it to B. There is a feedback from the receiver to the original sender FBA. There's also feedback from the channel to the sender FCA and a feedback from the receiver to the channel. X stands for any event or object in the social environment about which the news source A wants to communicate to B about. This object could be a price change or a political crisis or any other issue. A is known as the advocate in the model. He could be an individual or an organization. He has something to say to B about X. A could be a politician, an advertiser, or a news source. C is a media organization or a gatekeeper. It selects from a number of news advocates A's or events X's to communicate directly with B. In the Westley-Maclean model, the role of the gatekeeper is non-purposive. B represents the audience in the Westley-Maclean model. It could either be an individual, a group, or even a social system. X dash is the choice made by the communicator A for access to the channel C, and X double dash is the modified message transmitted by the channel C to the receiver B. We now discuss the three different feedbacks in the model. FBA is the feedback from a member of the audience to the original news advocate A. It could be a vote for a particular political party, or it could be B buying a particular product. FBC is the feedback from an audience member to the communication organization C. It could be in the form of a direct communication from B to C, or it could be a result of an audience research. FCA is the feedback from the communication organization C to the advocate A. This helps A modulate their future purposive communication to C. We now discuss the three main criticisms of the model. The model assumes that the relationship between A, C, and B will be self-regulating and mutually beneficial. However, in reality, there is a political relationship between the channel C and the news advocate A, and at times between C and the member of the audience B. Also, the model overestimates the degree of integration between these elements A, C, and B, and the fact that there is an understanding between the advocates, the channel, and the audience. In reality, it might be very different. People may have very different views of the same object. The model also assumes that the communicator C is free from all influences of the society. In reality, it might be open to many socio-political influences, especially in political matters or those where the interests of the state is involved. The model opens up a number of avenues in communication research. For example, the research questions could be: what are the characteristics of the mass communicators? What criterion are applied by C in allocating access to A's or X's? In what ways are messages about X's altered in passing through C?